This man created his own Lamborghini. Welcome back, Charlie here. Some cars can be pretty boring, but not these cars. From people who built their own luxury supercars, to cars that can fly, and even the most expensive car in the world. Here are the most unusual cars ever made. First, we have to look at this DIY Lamborghini. The Lamborghini Reventon is one of the nicest cars out there, but it's also one of the most expensive at around $2 million. Wang Jian, the son of a humble farmer from China, did not have $2 million, but nothing was going to stop him from getting his dream car, the Lamborghini Reventon. So instead, he decided to build his own. He did this using whatever parts and materials he could get. Amazingly, he only had to spend $9,500 to build his very own Lamborghini. Wang calls his creation the poor man's Lamborghini. Lamborghini only ever made 21 Lamborghini Reventons, but now I guess there are 22 of these in the world. Although Wang's car does look similar to the Reventon, there are some major differences. Instead of the normal carbon fiber exterior, Wang's car is made of iron. And instead of the Lamborghini's famous V12 engine, Wang's car has an engine from an old Nissan van. The chassis on Wang's car also comes from an old Volkswagen. Also, the interior is clearly not Lamborghini standard, but it's still insanely impressive for only $9,500. Also, the entire car was made by hand by Wang and no one else. Wang also says he wants to start his own sports car business. Instead of driving his car around Dubai or Monaco, Wang uses it to transport fertilizer to his parents' farm. That's because Chinese police banned him from driving it on the road. I think for all Wang's effort, Lamborghini should give this guy a free car. Next, we have to look at the Aeromobile. Just imagine seeing a car driving down the road, when all of a sudden, it takes off into the sky. Well, that's literally what will happen if you see an Aeromobile driving around. These flying cars are made by a Slovakian company, and you can buy one. If you have a spare $1.6 million lying around, that is. Only 500 of these cars have ever been made. The goal of the car is to allow everyday drivers to travel in the skies. The car can drive around on roads, but if it's safe, you can also take off and fly over traffic. Just imagine one of these cutting you off. The Aeromobile can fly at a top speed of 124 miles per hour. The car is getting more and more popular, so we may be seeing flying cars on the road sooner than you think. Next, we have to look at this DIY electric supercar. With the rising cost of gas, who wouldn't want an electric supercar? The only downside is they cost serious money. Money that Cheng Yingxi from China simply didn't have. So that's why he decided to grab his toolbox and build his own. The 27-year-old hand-built this entire car. It cost him only $4,000 to make. The car has stunning red paint, a plush interior, and even scissor doors. It's insane that one man built this car in such little time with such little money. Chen paid for the car's construction by leasing it out for photo shoots. It's safe to say this young engineer really does have the entrepreneurial spirit. Next, we have to look at the Bloodhound. You may think the world's fastest car would be a Bugatti or a Lamborghini, or maybe even an F1 racing car, but the Bloodhound leaves all of those other cars in the dust. The Bloodhound was specifically made to break the world record for the fastest car. The car is jet-powered and was able to break the land speed record. It's basically a hybrid of a space rocket and a racing car. But how fast did it really go? The fastest speed reached by the Bloodhound so far is 763 miles per hour. But the vehicle is believed to be able to achieve up to 1,000 miles per hour. Every year, the vehicle tries to beat its previous record. It's hoped that by 2024, the Bloodhound will reach 1,000 miles per hour, which would break its own record for the fastest land speed. Moving on, let's look at the Sea Lion. If you want a car and a boat but only have the money for one, then I've got the car for you. It's called the Sea Lion. It can travel on the road and on water. One of these can be yours for $259,500. $500. It can go fast on land and water. It's actually the fastest amphibian car. The body is made from welded aluminium, allowing it to be very aerodynamic. It can travel at speeds of 180 miles per hour on land and 60 miles per hour on water. Considering the average motorboat goes at a speed of only 30 miles an hour, the Sea Line is equipped with a 174 horsepower Mazda engine, but future models will have a 600 horsepower Renesas RX-8 engine, allowing this car to dominate both on the roads and in the water. Moving on, we have to look at this DIY Countach. The Lamborghini Countach is one of the most desirable cars in the world, which is why the Countach will cost you $2.64 million. That's simply out of reach for most people, including Ken Imhoff. But instead of giving up, Ken decided to build his own. It took Ken over 10 years in his basement to build this. He built it by hand, mainly using aluminium. Ken used measurements from a real Countach, ensuring that the body was 100% correct. He did make a few minor changes, but to most people it looks like a real Lamborghini Countach. Ken was inspired to build this car after seeing it in the movie Cannonball Run. In total, it cost Ken $65,000 to build this car, meaning that it saved him millions of dollars. To get the car out of his basement, he had to knock down the basement wall, and then build a ramp to drive it up. Ken's car is complete with real Lamborghini taillights, parking lights, windshield, and badges. Under the hood is a 514 horsepower Ford V8 engine, making this homemade car insanely powerful. Next, we have to look at the most expensive car. The most expensive retail car is the Rolls-Royce Boattail, which costs a whopping $28 million. But that's not the most expensive car in the world. The most expensive car ever created is actually said to be this Mercedes SL600. It's covered in diamonds and the interior is made of mink fur. It reportedly costs $30 million. It was presented at a Dubai Auto Show in 2007 and was made to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Mercedes-Benz SL550. It took 13 people 2 weeks to attach all of the diamonds. In total, over 300,000 diamonds were used. But I wouldn't want to drive this car anywhere. Just a small scratch could set you back millions of dollars. And a car like this basically screams, "Rob me" to any criminals. That being said, the car is still totally amazing to look at. And although it is fully functioning, it's more of an art piece than a car to drive. Now let's look at the longest limo. This Cadillac Eldorado from the 1970s is the longest limousine in the world. It's an insane 30.5 meters long. It moves around on 26 wheels. The limo has everything a billionaire could ever need, including a pool, jacuzzi, and helipad. It has sofas, beds, and bars, and has 2 separate cockpits for its drivers, one in the front and one in the rear. The rear driver is responsible for reversing. This was used for some years in the 1970s and 80s, before eventually being abandoned in New Jersey. Thankfully, the Automotive Museum in New York purchased it, ensuring that this amazing vehicle isn't lost to time. Moving along, we have to look at the Avatar 2. In 2022, Mercedes-Benz created a vehicle based on the Avatar movie. The car doesn't even look real, but it is. The car is sleek and glows, and can even move sideways like a crab. With the Avatar 2, parallel parking couldn't be easier. The car also has something known as Avatar skin. These move in response to their environment, altering the car's aerodynamics and braking power. Inside the car, you'll notice something's missing. That's right, the car has no steering wheel. Instead, you steer with what's known as the car's mouse. The car has a top speed of 223 miles per hour. Right now, prototypes of the car have been made. It's said that when these are mass-produced, the price will be $76,000, which is honestly not too bad for such a futuristic looking car. Finally, let's look at this plain limo. This limo was built using a Boeing 727. It had its wings and tails chopped off, and was then attached to a Mercedes-Benz bus, creating this amazing limousine plane hybrid. It was first made by a Mexican limousine company, but was later bought by an unknown person in the United States. The plane's cockpit is still intact, but with a steering wheel added so it can be driven on the road. The limo is 53 feet long, and inside it has a TV, a fireplace, and a dance floor, making it the ultimate party vehicle. This old car turns into a real transformer. Welcome back, Charlie here. Some vehicles are not what they seem. From a car that can drive over traffic, to a motorcycle that transforms into a hovercraft. These are the most amazing real-life transforming vehicles in the world. When you think of cool cars, Ladas don't exactly come to mind. Ladas are old-fashioned Russian cars. But don't be fooled by this Lada. In seconds, it can turn into a real-life transformer, complete with secret compartments and automatic weapons. Gennady Koshurga and his son Sergey built this in only 6 months. The Lada transformer can stand up, walk, and even shoot. You'd better think twice before cutting this car off. It might just transform and shoot your car. An even more epic transforming car is Letrons. This may look like a normal BMW, but in seconds it can go from car to transformer. A Turkish company named Letrons made this fully functional transformer car. It's based on a BMW 3 Series, which has been heavily modified to transform into a 15-foot robot. It took 12 engineers 8 months to build this. The entire transformation can be done with the touch of a single button. While you can buy a BMW 3 Series for about $40,000, you'll need around $600,000 to own one of these. So if you want to build your very own transformer army, you're going to need deep pockets. Everyone hates sitting in traffic. In fact, the average person will spend about one entire year of their life just sitting in traffic. But not people who drive these. This transforming car is named the Hum Rider. With the press of a button, this car's custom hydraulics will elevate it 5 feet into the air, giving it enough space to rise above any other cars, allowing you to drive over any traffic. It would be scary seeing one of these driving over your car, but the driver of the Hum Rider will save an insane amount of time. The car is based around a Jeep SUV. Underneath, a Honda generator powers the car's hydraulics. The Hum Rider weighs in at 8,500 pounds, making this car an absolute Goliath on the road. Cameras are mounted all over the vehicle's body, allowing you to see all of the jealous people you're driving over. But if driving over traffic isn't enough, then why not fly over traffic? That's exactly what you can do with this motorcycle. This is the Lazareth LMV 496. After years of work, the French company Lazareth have made this. The motorcycle has 4 17-inch wheels, powered by a Maserati V8 engine. It can go from 0 to 100 miles per hour in seconds. But that's nowhere near the most impressive part. The motorcycle has a separate fuel tank which holds jet fuel. When a button is pressed, the wheels rotate 90 degrees. Each of the 4 wheels become a turbine engine, allowing you to literally fly. This motorcycle is proof that we're living in the future. The only downside is the price. You can pick one of these up for $560,000, but Lazareth hope to make these more affordable in years to come. It's a steep price, but maybe having your very own transforming hovercraft is worth it. An even more amazing transforming vehicle is this. This may look like an average Kia Mojave, but within seconds it transforms into the Robo Kia. The Robo Kia is a real transforming car made by Kia. It took the Korean car maker months to build this. The SUV completely transforms in less than 30 seconds, complete with various cameras, and even a pair of creepy glowing eyes. After transforming, the Robo Kia can go forwards and backwards, as well as move its arms. The Robo Kia even comes with a creepy voice.
Porque aqui é a marca que não para. para de surpreender os consumidores no mundo todo.
We all know the ED-209 robots from RoboCop. In the movie, they're heavily armed and reinforced robots. Well, someone made one of these in real life. What at first seems like a regular car soon turns into a real-life ED-209. The car has a shotgun and rocket launchers built in. It extends to triple the car's normal height, and the top part can rotate 180 degrees, meaning that no one will be able to escape the ED-209 car. I think this robot might be even scarier than the ones from the movie. However, not all transforming vehicles have to be scary. Take the Earth One. A Japanese company made this amazing foldable car. You'll never have to worry about fitting into that parking space ever again. The car was designed by the same artist who made the Gundam anime series. The folding transformer car will set you back $70,000. But maybe it's worth it if you live in a city without many parking spaces. An even smaller transforming vehicle is this. It's named the Uno. With the push of a button, it can go from a motorbike to a unicycle. Its front wheel can fold in and out, allowing you to choose how many wheels you want to use. The Uno's creator was inspired after seeing smog pollution. He decided to make an eco-friendly transforming bike. And just like that, the Uno was born. You can buy one of these mini bikes for $7,500. But not all transforming vehicles have to be on land. Take for example the Cormoran watercraft. By pressing buttons, this boat transforms. It can expand, giving you more space. It can go from a monohull to a catamaran to a trimaran to a hydrofoil. This makes it one of the most versatile vessels ever. Its advanced hydraulics allow it to transform while at sea, and it can even reach a top speed of 108 nautical miles per hour. This luxury shape-shifting speedboat will set you back $1.4 million. It has a total of 6 different shapes. So dividing the price by 6, that's only $230,000 per shape. Okay, still kind of expensive. But if you love traveling in luxury, then this transforming limousine is a must-have. This is the Clansen limousine. At first, it may look like a regular black van, but by pressing a button, it stretches into a massive limousine. The interior is bigger than some people's apartments. It has its very own coffee maker and champagne fridge. 4 people can easily sit or sleep in the back. The interior is top spec, with the best seats, speakers, and screens. It even has every Billionaires essential, a cigar case, and a fingerprint sensor safe to store all of your money. If you have any left after buying this transforming limousine van will set you back $300,000. An even more insane transforming vehicle is this. It's named the JD-ite. It's a Japanese creation. 2 passengers can sit inside, and this car transforms into a robot. It can walk around, flashing lights and making noise. It took years to build, and only one of these were ever made. It can be controlled within the car or by a separate remote. But not all transforming vehicles are for fun. Some actually have practical uses. For example, the XCMG-ET111. Not a very catchy name, but this vehicle is mind-blowing. It's an excavator that transforms. Created by the Chinese company XCMG, it allows construction workers to drive almost anywhere and get into very tight spaces. Its wheels can even be used as separate tools. I can't think of a more fun job than driving one of these. Hundreds of supercars have been abandoned in China, and the reason why is scary. Welcome back, Charlie here. You may think only old, worthless vehicles would ever be abandoned, but sometimes the most expensive cars in the world are left to rot. First, let's look at this car cemetery. Take a look at this bizarre forest in Belgium. There are hundreds of abandoned cars. Nature has reclaimed many of these, with trees and moss growing into the cars. This looks like a traffic jam that's never cleared, or some kind of post-apocalyptic world. But this place is actually known as the Chatillon Car Cemetery. People found these in this Belgian forest. But the bizarre thing is, many of these cars were American. Some believe they've been left behind by American forces after World War II ended. But this was debunked. That's because most of these cars hadn't been made until 20 years after the war ended. So how did all these classic American cars end up abandoned in a Belgian forest? Well, the cars actually belonged to Canadian troops. The Canadian Air Force had been stationed in a nearby town. This was on behalf of NATO in the 1940s. But in 1966, the troops left, leaving all of the cars to one local mechanic. The mechanic had hundreds of cars in this tiny town, and wasn't able to sell them all on, so he simply had to leave them in this woods, leaving them to rust and rot. They stayed in this woods for about 50 years, until finally being cleared away in 2010. Next, let's look at these abandoned supercars in Dubai. Every year, thousands of luxury supercars are left to rot in car parks across the UAE, mostly in one car park in Dubai, that is the Dubai International Airport car park. Lamborghinis, Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, and even a limited edition Ferrari Enzo have all been found. But why are people leaving millions of dollars of cars abandoned in Dubai? Well, the reason is actually quite scary. You see, in the United Arab Emirates, it's an offense to default on loans. This means if you loan money and can't pay it back, that's actually criminal. Even missing one credit card payment or bouncing a check can land you in jail, or lead to you getting blacklisted from ever working again. As a result, many expats who run into money troubles have to abandon their lives. They often don't have time to sell their car or house, so they simply drive to the airport, park their car, and GTFO. This has led to some pretty amazing and expensive cars being totally abandoned to collect dust, including this $1 million limited edition Ferrari Enzo. Images of these abandoned supercars in Dubai have gone viral many times, but most assume it's simply super rich people who can't be bothered to take care of their cars. People assume they just get bored of the cars and so they dump them. But really, expats and locals are leaving these cars when they flee the country. But why do so many rich people fall into a dangerous debt trap when they go to the UAE? Well, simply put, Dubai is known for its flashiness and luxury. People feel the need to fit in, so they borrow lots of money to buy big houses and luxury cars, often leading to them struggling to repay the debts and having to flee the country. Moving along, let's look at this abandoned Batmobile. No car is as iconic as Batman's Batmobile. You may think you can't buy one of these, but you actually can. However, it seems this owner didn't take good care of his Batmobile. In 2019, an abandoned Keaton-era Batmobile was found. It had been discovered rusting in a scrapyard. It had been there for many years, but no one knows how it ended up there. Surprisingly, 1 year later in 2020, another abandoned Batmobile was found, discovered in a scrapyard in New York. A working Batmobile can sell for around $700,000, so it's surprising these insanely expensive cars have been abandoned. Also, these Batmobiles are super rare. They have to be custom made, meaning there's only a few in the entire world. Next, let's look at this mysterious bike cemetery. Recently, mountains of abandoned bikes have been showing up in China. Recently, in many cities, bike sharing has become a big trend. You may have seen these bikes around your city, but there's no country where bike sharing is more popular than in China. Bike sharing companies in China have all wanted to cash in, so that's why they've been leaving loads of bikes all around Chinese cities. The only problem is they're leaving way too many bikes. Police have rounded up over 100,000 abandoned bikes. Companies have dumped millions of these brightly colored shareable bikes in Chinese cities, mainly in Shanghai. The government has now removed these bikes from the streets and has created massive bicycle graveyards. They're honestly pretty amazing to look at. A lot of these bike companies have been shut down and charged with illegally parking bikes. Some of these bikes have been given away, but eventually authorities ran out of people to give these to, so now they're just crushing them in scrapyards. It all seems like a massive waste of money. It's safe to say these bike graveyards are going to be around for quite some time. Next, we have to look at this gigantic abandoned machine. This is the Bagger 1473. This gigantic machine can be found in Schipkau, Germany. The vehicle is 170 feet tall, with a massive 40-foot saw coming off it. Urban explorers found this vehicle in 2002. But what is this monster machine? Well, it's actually an excavator used for mining. The massive saw wheel rotates. The buckets on the wheel would then scoop up earth and rocks, dropping the earth and rocks on a conveyor belt to be processed. The vehicle would move using these tank-like tracks. This machine had been built all the way back in 1965, but was abandoned in 2000. That's because they'd ran out of things to dig, and it was also way too expensive to operate. Now let's take a look at this ditched Huracan. The Lamborghini Huracan is one of the coolest cars ever made. So why was this Lamborghini Huracan left in a ditch? In 2019, a man named Andrew Lawrence was in London. That's when he spotted this purple car lying in a ditch. Lamborghini Huracans are worth $250,000. So why would someone just leave this amazing and expensive car? The car was facing the wrong way and lying in a ditch on the wrong side of the road. Andrew looked around, but the owner was nowhere to be found. So he called the police to try and get some answers. It turned out the car belonged to Michael Hudson. He's a Bitcoin millionaire and the founder of BitStocks. He'd been driving when his car suddenly hit a puddle of water, causing it to slide off the road into a ditch. Instead of calling a tow truck, he walked off to get help. Thankfully, the car was removed and repaired. But if a puddle of water can do that to the car, maybe it's not worth all that money. Next, let's look at the McBarge. In 1986, McDonald's built a floating restaurant. This was off the coast of Vancouver, Canada. McDonald's made a unique floating restaurant. It was pretty massive, 187 feet long, and cost around $26 million to build. The McBarge was in operation for about 5 years, but people soon got tired of it. It was docked up and left to rot, slowly decaying on the coast. Some urban explorers have sailed to this to get a closer look. The inside looks incredibly eerie, and some of the old McDonald's kitchen supplies can still be found inside. Next, let's look at these supercars abandoned in China. Thousands of abandoned supercars are collecting dust in China. In 2007, the Chinese government declared a crackdown. This was on corruption and excessive consumption. This led to many luxury car dealerships closing down, and most of these cars were never moved or sold. Either no one's interested or it's still illegal. One thing's for sure, these photos are enough to make any car enthusiast cry. Next, let's look at the Lung Class Chronoplan. This vehicle doesn't seem real, but it is. This 242-foot-long plane is abandoned. It was a top-secret military vehicle in the Soviet Union. It would fly on water using air pressure, allowing it to move inches from the water of any ocean or lake, and crucially avoid enemy air radar. It could travel at 340 miles per hour, making it a perfect boat-plane hybrid. But when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, this amazing vehicle was abandoned. Today it's been left on the coast of Russia's Dagestan region. It's now too heavy to be pulled ashore, and so it's sinking into the ocean. I'd feel pretty uneasy swimming next to such a massive vehicle, especially as it's so old and pieces are likely falling off. This vehicle is dangerously overloaded. Welcome back, Charlie here. To try and save time and money, people often overload vehicles. Sometimes with things, and other times with people. These are the most overloaded vehicles ever caught on camera. First, we have to look at this overloaded truck. Trucks are designed to carry heavy loads, but certain people push trucks to their absolute limits. The excess cargo can cause trucks to lean, and sometimes even fall over. This makes things very dangerous for the truck driver, not to mention all the other drivers on the road. In some countries, people use cheap trucks and overload them, causing the trucks to be crushed under the cargo's weight. It's even more dangerous when these trucks drive up hilly roads. They may have to make sharp turns, and if the truck tips over, then it falls down the hill. This scary photo was taken on a hilly road in Dargai, Pakistan. People had overloaded a truck with a big bag of sand. They did this to try and save time and money, but the sand spilled everywhere and the truck is now broken. This means that they lost money and it will now take a longer time. It would have been better to put these in two separate trucks, but these people did not think far into the future. Many of these people tried to pull the truck down using ropes. It is great people helped out, but those same people should have prevented this happening in the first place. Clearly, nobody spoke up to say the truck was way overloaded, and because of that, the truck overturned. ground. It's clear that disaster is just around the corner whenever you overload a truck. Some people even try and overload smaller trucks, causing them to tip over backwards. This man even tried to overload a tricycle truck. Tricycle trucks are small trucks with only 3 wheels. They're meant for light loads only, but this man broke his truck by overloading it. These trucks can be expensive, but it seems like so many trucks get destroyed thanks to the owners overloading them. Sometimes people even overload trucks using very dangerous loads. For example, this truck stacked up with wood. These wooden logs are very poorly stacked, and they're about double the height of the vehicle itself. If they fell onto other people or cars, it could cause fatalities, which is why you can see this driver is getting a fine for his dangerous loading. It is amazing how these trucks can transport massive amounts of wood, but just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. In this video, the vehicle does seem to be driving normally despite the massive load, but there's no saying this vehicle didn't tip over later on. At first, it may seem like some vehicles can support heavy loads, but it only takes one wrong turn for them to tip over, causing massive damage. Moving on, we have to look at this overcrowded bus. In some cities, there's not enough buses to go around. This leads to thousands of people packing onto one tiny bus. This can get pretty dangerous. In one video from Kazakhstan, a man is trying to push his way onto a packed bus. There's no room for even one more person to fit in. The man pushes 2 women into the bus. He then finally tries to get himself into the bus. The door doesn't even close. But this doesn't stop the driver from driving off anyway. Although the door's hanging open, the man does manage to get on the bus. Another country famous for overcrowded buses is India. Sometimes people cling to the windows or roof of Indian buses. That's because there's not enough buses to go around, meaning that if you miss your bus, you may miss work and get fired. It's not like in some countries where another bus will come along 5 minutes later. If you miss one of these Indian buses, you may need to wait many hours. And in some cases, only one bus comes per day. This results in hyperloaded buses. People are squeezed in like sardines and hang on for dear life. It may look kind of funny at first, but it's also very dangerous. One wrong move could cause people to fall off while the bus is moving. In some cases, too many people could cause the vehicle to be overloaded and collapse. But these people are so obsessed with getting to their destinations that they simply don't care. But if you think that's dangerous, then take a look at this. This bus in Nepal is driving along a hilly, winding road. They're incredibly high up. Despite this, people are hanging on to the doors and roof. They could easily fall and really hurt themselves. Also, if the bus fell off the cliff, then these people would surely pass away. The terrain around here is very unstable, but it seems like these bus passengers don't care. Unfortunately, every year some people do pass away thanks to buses being overloaded. This normally happens on busy roads in India or poorly maintained winding roads in Nepal. Moving on, we have to look at this overloaded bicycle. You may be shocked that people can overload bicycles, but this man in China definitely proves it's possible. He put a small extension behind his bike, allowing it to carry a truckload worth of items. Bicycles are often overloaded in China. It happens when people are too poor to afford a truck, so instead they buy a bike and overload it. This is very dangerous. It makes the bicycle rider's visibility very poor. Also, the bicycle may break under the massive weight of the cargo. Despite this, it's a common sight to see in China. It's technically illegal to do this, but in China these laws aren't very well enforced, leading to people transporting just about anything using their bikes. Moving on, we have to look at this overcrowded train. People want to reach their destination, sometimes even if it means risking their lives. These images from Kenya show people hanging off the side of a train. There are also many people sitting on top. Surprisingly, this is a normal commuter train. People make this journey every day just to get to work. Sadly, people sometimes fall off, causing them to be injured or lose their lives. Sometimes people even sit in between the train carriages, which, for obvious reasons, is very dangerous. Train overcrowding is also very common in South Africa. Overcrowded trains are also a common sight in India, but one of the most famous overcrowded trains can be found in Dhaka, Bangladesh. These people are going to a religious festival in Bangladesh. So many people wanted to go that they literally had to sit on top top of the train. People are literally squeezed in like sardines, with some even sitting on the front of the train. All of the people are crushed so small they look like ants. But really, it's because the train is so big. Doing this is very dangerous, but it's daily reality for many people in certain countries around the world. If a train like this derailed, hundreds would lose their lives. But I guess that's the risk you take when boarding an overloaded train. Moving on, we have to look at this overcrowded boat. In India, you will find these insane overcrowded boats. It seems like in India, there's no vehicles which aren't overcrowded. This massive 4-story boat is very overcrowded. Some people are hanging onto the balcony of the boat. These people want to get to where they need to go to so much that they're risking their life to do so. It's very risky as people could fall off. Worse yet, the weight of the people might be too much, causing the boat to tip over or completely capsize. There is not enough lifeboats on this boat, meaning that if there was an accident, many people would lose their lives. The same thing is common in Bangladesh, which is sadly known for shipwrecks. In 2016, this boat was seen off the coast of Libya. Hundreds of people boarded this tiny boat, causing the entire boat to tip over and capsize. The Spanish and Italian Navy came to rescue the people, and thankfully got the people onto lifeboats. But it just shows how dangerous overloading boats can be. These African boat disasters are unfortunately very common. Next, we have to look at this overcrowded taxi. Taxis normally only have 5 seats, so you may be asking, how could one be overcrowded? Well, take a look at this footage from the Dominican Republic. The army noticed a taxi driving down the road. When they pulled it over, they realized there were over 10 people inside the vehicle. Dozens of people were inside the car, and many people were also crammed in the trunk. The number of people inside makes it look like a clown car. Just when you think everyone's left, there's more people inside. Some taxi drivers do this to make more money, but of course it breaks many road laws, and they may face a big fine if they're caught. This taxi in Africa had people transported on the roof, but when the police noticed, things got very scary. The passengers were chased off the roof, and they had to run away. The taxi is not only overloaded with people, but goods too. It really is wild the lengths some people will go to just to get to their destination, even if it means risking their safety and breaking the law in the process. Now, we have to look at this overloaded car. No vehicle is safe when it comes to overloading, and that includes normal cars. This car is overloaded with plastic barrels. Scaffolding had to be built in order to lift the load. Also, take a look at this overloaded car. Someone is either moving house or was made homeless, but instead of selling their stuff, they simply strapped it to their car. It seems like some people use cars even when trucks would be better for the job. Just take a look at this overloaded car leaving North Korea. This car is going to South Korea. It's leaving North Korea's Kaesong Industrial Complex. The driver is bringing products from North to South Korea. You may be wondering, how's the driver supposed to see? Well, a tiny gap has been left on the windscreen for the driver to look out of, but despite this, it still seems very dangerous. Lots of these overloaded vehicles go from North to South Korea, despite it being against the law to drive like this. But now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Comment below which of these overloaded vehicles was the most dangerous. I've been Charlie. Thanks for watching. If you want to see my short videos, then check out my second channel. Drop a like if you enjoyed. And if you haven't yet, then what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.